Welcome to this edition of the Native News Update on this Monday, February 8th. I'm your host for today's program, Paul DeMain. Many of the stories right here can also be found at our website at IndianCountryNews.com. Here are the news stories from the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. Tribal members descend in late January each year to the burial ground near the Bear River, where soldiers in 1863 felled hundreds of their ancestors in one of American history's bloodiest but little remembered massacres. Descendants of the northwestern Shoshone, who were decimated in their winter encampment in a surprise attack 147 years ago, stamped their feet in the cold and offered a song and prayer to those who have passed on. The commanding Army officer involved counted 220 to 270 dead. Settlers who went in later found many more bodies and put the number as high as 500, a figure cited in the National Park Service history. The tribe estimates 400 of their number were killed. No more than 60 survived. Any of those numbers are larger than the much more well-known massacre at Wounded Knee in South Dakota, where some 146 Lakota Sioux were gunned down in 1890, and even at Sand Creek, Colorado, where 150 Cheyenne and Arapaho were killed in 1864. And yet history books make little mention of the Bear River, perhaps because the nation was elsewhere engaged in the Civil War. The Battle of Gettysburg, with its estimated 51,000 casualties, was later that same year, one of the bloodiest ever in American soil. The 23rd consecutive American Indian Day at the New Mexico State Legislature was a great success, according to New Mexico's Cabinet Secretary of Indian Affairs, Alvin Warren. During the activities in the state capitol rotunda, Secretary Warren read a proclamation by Governor Bill Richardson proclaiming February 5, 2010 American Indian Day throughout the state of New Mexico, and encouraging all New Mexicans to join him in recognizing and celebrating the significant and meaningful contributions of Native Americans to the state. This year's theme, Implementing State Tribal Collaboration, largely focused on the successful implementation of the 33 cabinet-level state agencies of SB 196, the State Tribal Collaboration Act of 2009, which was signed into law by Governor Richardson on March 19th of last year. The act provided the basis for the May 2009 summit between Governor Richardson and the leaders of the 22 tribes there, nations, and pueblos in New Mexico. It has also led every cabinet-level agency to develop the tribal communication and collaborative policies that prompt positive government-to-government relations, and designates a tribal liaison as a point of contact to ensure the act's compliance. Members of the Natawisipi Huron Band of Potawatomi will be showing off red as part of a national awareness effort to support and educate women about heart disease. The tribe will be hosting a red dress event to increase awareness of cardiovascular disease amongst tribal women and to help ensure that all preventative measures possible to prevent this disease are being taken. The event will be held the evening of February 12th at the Tribal Community Center. The Heart Truth National Awareness Campaign created and introduced the red dress as the national symbol for women and heart disease awareness in the year 2002 to help deliver an urgent wake-up call to American women. The red dress calls women to action and empowers them to protect their heart health and reduce their risk of heart disease. The tribe has been involved with the Red Cross event for the last 5 years. This is the second year the tribe will host its own Red Dress event. This year's Red Dress event will include dinner, keynote speaker cardiologist Dr. Ted Veras, drum groups giveaways, and a cardiovascular screening. There's also a contest for the most creative red outfit. Assistant Secretary of Indian Affairs Larry Echohawk announced recently that he has named Bart Stevens as acting director of the Bureau of Indian Education while the process for finding a permanent director continues. The temporary appointment became effective February 2nd. Stevens, an enrolled member of the San Carlos Apache tribe in Arizona with ancestry from the Gila River Indian community in Arizona, the Shoshone-Bannock tribes in Idaho, and the Ute tribe in Utah, has been the Bureau's deputy director for school operations since January 4, 2009. He replaced Kevin Skenador, who had been serving as the acting BIE director since August of 2007. Following a long career in teaching, counseling, and school administration positions in tribal and public schools in Utah, Stevens started his BIE career at the New Mexico South Education Line Office in Albuquerque in July of 2006. Native American journalist Mark Trahant will be in Fairbanks next week as a guest lecturer at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. Trahant will give a public presentation, Native Americans, Media, and Healthcare Reform on, that's this week, Thursday, February 11th at 7 p.m. at the Schabel Auditorium on the UAF campus. Trahant is a 2009 Kaiser Media Fellow who is writing about healthcare reform through the lens of other government-operated healthcare programs like the Indian Health Service. His commentary on Native health issues has appeared in the Huffington Post, on IndianCountryTV.com, and his embrace of news media extends to four-line news poems on Twitter. He also recently wrote a monograph on Senator Henry M. Scoop Jackson, who is known for his work in the environment and international arena, as well as American Indian policy. Trahant is the former editorial page editor for the Seattle Post-Intelligencer and a former president of the Native American Journalists Association. You can get more information by calling Brian O'Donohue at 907-474-6247. The Indigenous Language Institute received a $15,000 grant from the First Nations Development Institute of Longmont, Colorado. This award supports ILI's Native Youth Language project called Ancient Voices, Modern Tools. The Native Youth Language Project will train 30 students from the Santa Fe Indian School on the use of ILI's technology tools to create audio-visual materials in Indian languages. The students will learn to create 3-minute digital stories, short films using the computer and open-source application software. 75% or more of the narrative of the digital stories are to be in the native language, fostering youth to research language content and collaborate with speakers, usually the elderly, in their home communities. 3 of the student works will be selected to be submitted to the All Roads Film Festival of the National Geographic Society, where the best submissions from various high schools will be showcased on April 27th, 2010 at the Linsick Performing Arts Center in Santa Fe, New Mexico. The Obama administration last week proposed a budget of $10 billion for the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. This budget heeds the president's calls to streamline and find efficiencies in the agency's operations while supporting the 7 priority areas EPA Administrator Lisa P. Jackson outlined to guide EPA's work. Increases in the proposed budget for tribal nations will be vital in helping EPA address a key priority, building strong state and tribal partnerships. Quote, "We are thrilled that President Obama and Administrator Jackson proposed an increase in EPA's financial support for tribes in the fiscal year 2011, said Michelle D. Pass, Assistant Administrator for EPA's Office of International Affairs. We are excited to work with the regional offices to ensure that these funds are used to help develop and implement vital environmental and public health projects on tribal lands. In fiscal year 2011, EPA is requesting an increase in support to tribal programs to address critical needs in assessing environmental conditions on tribal lands and buildings, environmental programs tailored to tribal needs, as well as a new multimedia grant program to support implementation of high-priority programs." And that is the latest roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. Miigwech for joining with us once again.